So I'm gonna focus this talk mainly today just on like Digitakt. I have, first of all, like a show of hands, like who's familiar with Digitakt? Yeah, so good number of people. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this this talk. Is this machine is really capable, and I also wanted to focus on the Digitakt 1 because now it's relatively much more affordable, and it's just like super capable. You can do some really crazy stuff on it, and I think it's kind of undersold as a creative tool because people just see it as a drum machine. And I always think that, like, if you look at Elektron boxes, they always have like this little description here, and it's kind of both like a truth and a lie, and you kind of have to tease out like what it really is from that. And it's like this, you see like drum, and you're like 8 voices. Okay, it's an 8 voice drum machine, but really this is digital drum computer and sampler, and that's digital like drum computer is really a sampler computer is really what it is. And I think to really truly understand this, it's like you have to think about it almost like a tracker. If people are not familiar with trackers, it's basically looks like a musical spreadsheet on a lot of like the early computers, like Amigas. They like early versions of Cubase, they looked more like these spreadsheets, and it's kind of like a DAW turned, with vertically. And you have like these automation lanes, and per step you can send a bunch of commands to the computer, and that's really what this is, except your automation lanes are right here on each of these tracks. And I brought the Digitone too to kind of show a few tricks, but mostly because what's really great about Elektron is the sequencer. That's what really makes it unique, and it's coming from that tracker heritage. So yeah, when you first get this thing, you're like, okay, I got kick, snare, and the worst design decision they made, but I can understand what they did for marketing purposes. They labeled these kick, snare, tom, clap, cowbell, closed hat, open hat, and cymbal as not the way that you want to use this. That's very much just like a drum machine, and I can see why they did it. They're like, oh, people will know it's a drum machine, they'll know what it is. They're like, sample computer, they wouldn't sell any, but it's really a sample computer. So when you first get it, you're like, okay, put my kick on 1, and then I'll add a snare. Okay, then like just add some hi-hats in. Okay, I mean, it works, it's cool. Not bad, but really what I want to talk about today is using each one of these tracks as an automation lane. So switching to pattern 1, we'll get started with that. And if I switch to track 1, and if the way to switch tracks, if you don't know, it is you can hold down track without triggering the sound. Because if you just hit this, then you'll trigger the sound. But you hold down track, and then you can switch tracks silently. So switching to track 1, I can see that it's the only thing being triggered right now. So we have this drum beat going against this drone. Then bring in some more on the Digitone. Hit this a little bit. And these are just like really slow, just sine waves. I mean, on the Digitone, it's not straightforward. But because you can lock the voices, I could get into that, but I won't. You can kind of layer stuff really nicely if you just do a really slow sequence. So back on the Digitakts, we go in here to track 1, and we go into record mode. You can see that it's basically pretty close to 4 on the floor, and got a basic bass drum here, but here there's like a hat, and these are all sound blocks. And sound locks are like a really, really underutilized thing, because you can build stuff like super easily. You can, you just like start putting stuff in, and then you like just select it like this. And these are all loaded into this, what they call the sound pool, which is essentially RAM. So that means that you have like instant access to it, no matter how fast your sequencer is going. And so these are all just like sound locked. Here's another hat. And then there's some conditions on it. But a good trick that I like to do is people mess with probability, and you can see that here. And usually what they do is they put in a trig, and then they like, oh, I want this to be 30% of the time. But I'd argue that you should actually do the opposite. So you lock the ones that are kind of like your structure, your skeletal structure, your grid, like kind of the danceable part of your beat. And then you set it to 0. And then you can kind of evolve it by like slowly just turning it up. So it kind of gives you slow, like, because people usually do unmutes for this. They'll go into a mute mode, and then they'll unmute a track. You can just kind of slowly turn this up. You can do this with MIDI too, sequence synth. And now we've got like change the beat, but we did it slowly and up. And you can bring it back down. 1, 2. So you kind of bring the energy up and down on things like pretty fluidly. And if you press down on this dial, you can do real fast. So it's like kind of like instant drops, basically, just with this probability function. You can combine it with fill too. But okay, so we've got something built out of like a sequence, which is like usually what you do. But I think another underrated aspect of this is the fact that you can go in this sample menu here and you can just sample itself, resample it. And resampling, I think, is like one of the most powerful creative tools on these boxes, specifically this box, and the aux track as well. But we've got this beat, and then switch patterns, and now, okay, it sounds like the same beat, right? But go in here to source. Now we're actually listening to a sample. So this is a slice machine. So if you hold function and hit source, you can swap the machines out. These machines are all really cool. Like, they have tons of different capabilities. And really, in an older version of the firmware, you started it for me. Brilliant. He's got me. Older version of the firmware, they didn't have any of these machines. But really, like, the actual guts of like the firmware and the capabilities haven't changed. These are just affordances to make these capabilities easier that were possible on the old one-shot machine, which is the old one, the only one they used to have. But these really make things more convenient, make it easier to perform, make it easier to parameter lock stuff live. So with this one, it's the same beat, but if like we want to just turn up the intensity, we got to press down on this knob. Now we have 4 on the floor. Because what's happening here is we just locked the start slice to the kick. And the reason why you can hear the whole beat in the beginning is because if I turn it back down to 0, and we're back to the original beat. The reason you can hear that is because set the length to 16. So it plays 16 slices, and this is 16 slices long. And this one will just play from the first slice, all 16. Nothing else interferes with it and cuts it off. Because it's also locked to an infinite decay. So if I go to an empty pattern, it'll just keep playing. So it's kind of a cool way. Infinite decay is super valuable for like just having a sample play, like almost like an SP4 just gonna keep going. Go to like a new pattern, you can have like something completely different, and then you can unmute a track on that same, a mute pattern on that same track, and it'll kill it. So it doesn't stop playing until another trigger will trigger on the triggers on that track. So it'll keep playing until something interferes with it, essentially, and that includes that. If I unmute it, but there we go. Yeah. So if you unmute this is not a conditional trig. You could set this to this condition to like 1 theoretically, and then it would stop. But easier thing is just to like mute it and then just hit. And so that's the default envelope is set to, you can make it even shorter, so it's just a kick. Right? So, but then if you unmute it, you get the beat back because this is locked to an infinite decay. So cool. We got that. Turning it back to 4 on floor. Go to the next pattern. So that's resampling. The next thing I want to talk about is just like pattern morphing, and that is kind of a combination of just getting really crazy with the sounds. Save this to memory, but you can do like whatever you want here. You can change the grid size and just like, shouldn't be afraid on the Elektron devices to just parameter lock the hell out of everything and just go crazy, change, make this like really small, and it's like a little mini oscillator in a forward loop. There's a lot of like really crazy stuff that you can do with it. Another important thing is like changing the trig lengths here. So you get some different sounds. And if you want to audition a sound, all you have to do is like hold down the trig and hit yes. And it's just kind of an easy way to find some like weirder stuff. Find like a hat or something you like. Another thing that's useful is like, this is just a sample that's loaded into this from the source list here. And I don't really name any of them. It's like super lazy, but I'll explain that later. Another thing you can do is just like start like throwing in sound locks. So you're not even, you can instantly, what's cool about sound locks is it instantly changes the entire machine state for however long that trigger length is. And machine by machine state, it can be a different sample, it can be parameter locked any way that you want, and it can even be loaded entirely different machine if you're like just on every single step if you want it to. And if you get a sound that you like this, right? It's like from the original sample. You can easily save it as a sound by going in here. You hold down the trig, and then you say export sound, and you can change banks. There's actually multiple banks of samples, which is pretty useful. I never really did that before, but same goes for sounds. So I keep like all the stock ones on like bank A, and I keep mine on like bank B. So that makes it be easy, or you can separate it by like category, however you want. There's, all of these banks that you can use. So easy way, like don't forget to like, if you find something really cool, just save it as a sound. And what's cool about a longer sample like this is that once you re-import that sound, you can parameter lock it further, just copy it, paste it, parameter lock it, change it, save that one as a new sound. Just keep mutating it. So yeah, moving on. And this is just more of the similar type of just really completely reshuffling that same old sample, changing the sample grid size. Some of these are tuned up. I'm changing the sample length, just doing a lot of parameter locking, changing the grid size. And some of these are sounds, and you'll know when things are sounds, or maybe these aren't sounds. Maybe these are all just a sample. But if I go back to the other pattern, just to show, when something's a sound, it'll say it up here when you press it. Versus it's just the sample that's loaded into the track. So yeah, I mean, you can do kind of like the same probability trick here. You want to, and locking stuff to 100 is really easy. All you have to do is just do a quick flick left, and then kind of like whatever here's the grid. Data changes. Another thing that is great is Control Alt, but I'll show that a little later. So moving on to pattern 2, bank 2. Let's talk a little bit about Digitakt. Oh, it does a nice fade out. There we go. It actually did. I didn't think about that. I'm glad it worked. The next thing is making sample chains from other pieces of equipment. So with the Digitone here, there is on track 1, got just a bunch of kicks. And let's see, that's this track. Yeah, sorry. So just a bunch of kicks, and these are all just sound locks. And in the sequencer page here, it's at quarter speed, 16 steps. Master link is at 64. I'm a big proponent of like 1-page sequences. As soon as you start getting multiple pages, you get lost. You don't know what you're doing. Like, I mean, all you have to do is just like press function yes on this page, and you get into the ability to set pattern per track. So pattern length per track. So that means that all of your tracks can be different speed, different length. You can even set your master length to an infinite master length, which means that you can do polyrhythms really easily by making one track, like say 15 steps. Like you have like a hi-hat track that's 15 steps and the rest is 16, and then it'll drift in and out. You get this kind of cool phasing and ability for your this kind of polymetric evolution. Really cool to do with like conga drums, things like that. So yeah, that's the idea there. Sample in some kicks, sample in some hi-hats. You can get as crazy as you want with these. And then back on the Digitakt, you record those with like 64 steps. And when they added this record length, that was, I think, one of the best things that they did in the update, because it makes it very easy to precisely slice anything. And by the way, with slice machines, you can do that with just the regular one shot. You just change the start point, parameter lock the start point. Like I said, all that stuff existed before. How we do it at the time? Okay, we're good. So yeah, you resample that, or you sample that stuff in, change it, the source to input, which I won't do right now, but and then start getting some weird stuff. and like kind of the weirder the better, in my opinion, with this. And so it's like these are just parameter locked different things. And with this stuff, what I think is really cool about it is like you just end up with stuff that you would never think to make. You're just up with some really strange stuff, but like you just kind of like start to like, I build them kind of like one step at a time, and then I'll like make the pattern like really short, like 4 steps, and then I'll kind of build out that groove until it's good. And sometimes I'll just sample that and then make that a sample, and then build out a different 4-step one and make that a sample. But sometimes I'll change, once I'm done with 4, I'll make it 8, and then I'll finish the groove and see if it works as a little bit longer groove, and then go to 12, build it out a little bit more, go to 16. And that's kind of another performative thing you can do if like you build out a 16-step sequence and all like these kind of 4 quadrants of it are good. You can just live just change the length of your sequence, and then you get a really kind of nice evolving pattern that can change with time. So if we unmute some weird snares, then we just like unmute paths, and you just end up getting some like weird stuff. And what's kind of cool with stuff that's like this is you can just save it here. So function yes saves the pattern to a temporary area. And some people think that this like they're upchanging stuff. So here we talk. Some people think that this like you're like, oh no, I saved over my pattern, but there's kind of stages of saving. So if you have something that you're really sure, it's kind of like climbing a mountain. And this guy wrote an Octatrack book that I read a long time ago. He had this analogy I thought was really good. It's like making a pattern is kind of like climbing a mountain. It's like you start your base camp here, you save the pattern, and you do that by like going in here to this, and then going to pattern, and then save to project, and that saves your pattern to where it's like you can, even if you function yes, you can reload it. And if you save your project, that means it does that for all of your patterns that have changed. So be careful with that one. But there are these kind of multiple levels of saving. And that exists even on tracks themselves. You can reset tracks, and it even exists on pages. So this resetting of like function no. So if you start evolving this, or this was a little too loud, so turn on this track. So go in here, and then you just start just doing wacky stuff. That's what you're tuning. Do something like one thing I like doing is like just turning pretty much anything into a snare with bit reduction. Pretty much almost anything. Or a hi-hat. This might be too low, but another really interesting thing is sample rate reduction in this second page of the filter page. So if you just, that's the regular filter page. Let's get closer to the mic here. Regular filter page, and then you tap it again, you get your second filter page, and then start to turn this up. You get some really crazy, it completely changes the timbre of like everything, especially with hi-hats. So you can get, or like any clicks or snares, you can get really. And what I like to do is live record this. So you can just hold that record, hit play. It's not going to affect the playing of your pattern, but you can just, and then hit record again. And so it just parameter locked whatever I did live and recorded as automation. And you can do that with anything. You can just do it with reverb. And voltage pushing down the encoder is a really good way to just do that really fast. It's a good trick. I mean, you can do it with like the decay. Give me one. Weird, right? But hi-hats, another good candidate for bit reduction. You can even do it with samples, like change the sample completely. Delay, another good one. And then if you want to like say like bring everything down, you can use. Well, actually, before I talk about that, sorry, I keep on trying to get it in control because it's exciting, but. If you want to reset a particular page, say I'm like, I don't really like this bit reduction, you just hold down the page and hit no. And it's kind of like a reset, but just for that page. Very handy, just for that track too. And then function just brings you back to wherever you saved it last. So super good way to just like, it's like walking out on a tightrope, get really crazy and do it's like your Digitakt equivalent of a crazy guitar solo. And then you come back in after everyone's tired of you just shredding so hard. So that's sample chains. Really useful thing because any of these sample chains, you save those as a sound, like I said, and then when you import the sound, you have access to the entire sample chain just from that one sound. And you can load it into your sound pool RAM and just sound lock it, and then you can slice lock it. So let's see, what's this one? Okay, yeah, this is a kind of a cheap arpeggiator on the Digitakt. Digitone has an incredible arpeggiator. Maybe I'll get into that if we have some bonus time. But I did get kind of one thing I will do is I'll kind of like steal ideas from other boxes and try to apply them to other ones, or like apply them to the Digitakt or especially the Octatrack, because you really do everything in the Octatrack. I'm always kind of wondering, can I do this on the Octatrack? So we go here, just changing that. Oh, so I was 83. Let's change BPM back up to change this back up to 120. Keeping it simple, doing 120. Forgive me for just the 120. I will show a time stop or tape stop thing later though, but yeah, so in these tracks, track one, this really I want to illustrate the capability of what you would call a just a parameter lock, because there's kind of sample locks, which are the red triggers, but then there's these yellow ones which you can get by pressing like function and then hitting the trigger. And what those do is they don't trigger the sample, they won't re-trigger the sound, but they do allow you to parameter lock the sound. There are some interesting things that you can do with them. By default, this if you hold this one down and go into this trigger menu, you can see that filter trig, I turned that on. By the default, it's off. And what that means is like you can trigger the filter envelope here. So it starts out, the filter is like pretty much nothing. So I'm like kind of filtering out the sound entirely. And then on track two, pretty similar thing. But if I this has an infinite decay on it. And if I'm on track 2, going here is just 3 steps on the sequence. And it's pretty slow, so it's set to an 1/8 of what the copy speed is in level 3. And if you go in here, you can kind of see again, it's there's a filter trig. All these have filter trigs, and they also have like fill. So, or not fill, which means I can mute it just by I can take any of these out by just hitting fill. Which means if I transition to a new pattern, it will cut it. Because sometimes the infinite decay is a little bit of a problem. You gotta get rid of it. So bring it back in, and what's happening is every time it hits one of these, it's triggering the filter. The filter envelopes bring the sound in. And the other thing that's happening is I'm offsetting the sample tune. And the reason that I'm doing that instead of going here and locking the note is because it gives you the ability to go to chromatic mode and transpose it. And you can kind of design your sounds where it sounds a little better. And y'all are better musicians. I'm just a nerd, so I'll leave it up to the musicians to have good timing and all that. But and you can get pretty crazy with this. You can bring it back down, but you can bring in another one. So on track 1, if you want to bring that one in. So we have a very similar thing happening. We got a different sequence. And I'm mainly locking these to a 5th or 4th or something like that. So it's relatively unoffensive when you're transposing it around. But sometimes you can get kind of cool things. You can find sweet spots where you transpose 1 and then let the other continue playing. And you get some really different moods because you get these kind of dyads, kind of very pop little arpeggios. And then maybe you want to go drone underneath it. This one it's going really slow, but it's also has the same tuning blocks, and these are pretty fun to re-trigger. The more you press on it, Digitakt has kind of a weird timing based fake velocity. So if you press it really fast, it's a little bit less velocity. You hold it down, it's full velocity. So you transpose this one around. The slower one's easier to get. And you can trigger that envelope however you want. But yeah, that's the fake arpeggios. Now from fake arpeggios to fake burial. So 2007 Untrue album by Burial. I remember the first time I heard this beat, I was like, how the hell did he make that? It sounds like a raccoon rolling around in a trash can, but it's just grooved so hard. And the way he made it was he did it in SoundForge, which doesn't even have a grid like Ableton. He just manually placed everything, and he just resampled things, so many times that in his opinion, I know when things are ready when they look like fish bones. The waveforms look like fish bones. Because you resampled it so many times, you run it through effects and all that stuff. And the example here is I have 2 tracks. And what I want to show here is how you can stack sounds to start building things and evolve things. So this is kind of one flavor of it, and kind of covers one kind of portion of the frequency, and then another flavor. it's kind of like higher in the mids, and then together. You can kind of change the timing a little bit too. So these are all, if I look at these tracks, these are all like micro timed. So micro times, don't sleep on micro timing. You can get really crazy with micro timing. You humanize a lot of stuff, but I think humanize is kind of like a boring word because like I don't want to make it sound like a human drummer. I just want to make it sound like a weird drum machine. So I think the trick is like a lot of people see micro timing as like, oh, I'm humanizing it, but it's really a creative tool just to get these wild like swings, and you can do it do them on like longer time stretches too, because most people think of swing that's just like, okay, it's on the third and the seventh, and they're used to that jazz swing, but you can do them really longer stretches of time, get some weird stuff. So that's cool. It doesn't really sound like it. I don't really like the way it sounds. So resample it, through the old trick here, and then go in track 2. Better. And the reason why this sounds better is ran it the resample through a distortion unit, and it's actually kind of like quieter and more compressed. So you want to like, the term I always use is deep fry. Like you deep fry the samples and you get them really narrow and thin and crispy. And then what you do is you just play that one sample as a stem, and then start bringing in other tracks and just laying other sounds on top of it to emphasize things. So these are just sound locked on very similar timing, using the same timing. Same thing for this. This is just a little bit of texture, and it just adds something to it. So if you just listen to that one by itself, this one by itself. It's like not much, but it's on the same time. Just a little bit of texture. So it adds something to it. And then you can just start doing another thing I like to do, which is use noise. Just pull in a noise sample, and then you trigger the noise sample with lock to an infinite decay with the fill condition. So if I do that, you get an alternate backbeat to it. And these are all just, again, the filter trick. Some of these are LFO tricks, and I'll get to that. There's secret envelopes that you can get to with LFOs, which took me a long time to figure out, but it's a good trick. So you have that there. And once you get that going, you can just go to a blank track, and you got your sample, your stem will just keep playing because it's infinite decay. And then when you're ready, you can go to another track, and then you bring in a little pad. One kind of funny trick. Here's another one that where like my shitty timing is not going to be a good demo of this, but on track 4 here, these are all like vocal samples. So if you, sorry, I tapped on the remark. I wasn't looking. That's what I get for not looking. These are all just lock trigs, so they're not going to trigger the sample, but you can cheat it, triggering them in like any timing that you want, just by using the audition function with the holding trig and pressing yes. So you can, play the vocal parts. So it kind of gives you a little mini sample bank, and you can load whatever you want into those. Because not only can you, here I'm just taking the same sample and just locking the start point. So I can like set the start point and just kind of chop that sample up, trigger this manually, but you could just as easily lock the sample itself to something like completely different, like G7, G minor. Well, that's what I get from not testing it in person. Yeah, you can log it to different sample. I don't know why it's play, but yeah. So that's like a good little trick of just like if you need some like random sounds to trigger at like off the grid, and you don't want to take up an entire track per sound. So, like I said, not what I practice often. So forgive me for that. But go and check bank 13. This is neighbor conditions. So I didn't understand these kind of like neighbor conditions for trigs for a long time. But I finally reread the manual and did a little bit of experimentation. And something that's really cool about neighbor trigs is that you can use it to set off a chain reaction across multiple tracks by combining fill trig and neighbor trigs. So on track 1, I have a super short sequence, just 2 steps. And this one is no sample, fill, walk to fill. And then on track 2, these are all set to not neighbor. So this is really confusing, but yeah, it'll trigger, these will trigger when the fill is not triggering, right? And then you gotta flip the logic again on track 3. These are also not neighbor. So these will trigger when the neighbor is not triggering. So in other words, you skip back a track in the logic to the first one. So this will trigger when fill is being triggered. And you kind of repeat on down the line where you kind of skip the logic back and forth. It's really confusing. You just have to try it a couple times and then you kind of get it. So what that translates to, if I like unmute these, see track 2 is triggering. If I hold, now track 3 triggers. And it's just triggering some like weird fill based on sample slices. And then and you're like, well, you could do that with fill. Okay, yeah, you definitely can. But the nice part about it is that you can have it affect every track just from one fill condition. So you can do some pretty crazy stuff with that, and then like trigger stuff, unmute things. Get wild. And I guess now's the time to probably talk about control R. So this is very beloved by the Digitakt community as like I'll rep 45 minutes. I think I only got one more bank after this, so we're good, I think. So you can hold down track and then say like bring up reverb, and this affects the parameter for all the tracks. Overdrive, whatever we want to do, and LFO, get crazy. Doesn't even, maybe this is assigned to somebody track, I don't know. But it doesn't really matter what track you're on. Change the grid size. Tuning everything down. reverse loop everything to have visual cues. Lit. Let's go into chaos. Drop it. Vince. Here's what most people do. Most people say, okay, I want to reset the entire pattern. But there's a difference. If you don't let it go of track, you can just hit no. Undoes everything. But remember where my pattern started. It didn't start with all these tracks. So I didn't actually reset the pattern. I just undid the control all. And if I want to reset the pattern, function no. So it's kind of two levels. It took me a long time to realize that. It was in the manual the whole time. So yeah, bringing it back up. This thing is a riser. Go to resampled version, filtered out. On track 1, I have a riser, which is just noise. The envelope's triggering a filter envelope, slow. The machine is actually a repitch, which is handy because it makes your riser kind of adapt to whatever size that you want. So you could save that as a sound and then just change this bar length. So it allows you to kind of change your riser to whatever length that you want. The condition is set to fill. So I can just kind of hang out here in this chiller pattern for a while. And then when I'm ready, and then change to something different. And it's kind of a lame riser, but you can get crazy. Another thing, variation you can do if you're on this riser pattern, if you have like a knock fill on some of your other tracks, you can just keep holding down the fill button past pattern changes. So if I just keep holding it, change pattern. It doesn't come in quite yet. So it's just playing the one sample in track 3 until I'm ready, and then so you kind of go into a new pattern in different waves. You go back and forth between patterns and all of that. Drop the kick, unmute. So I used to kind of like dropping kicks. I would mute the pattern real quick, and try to unmute something and then bring it back in. Easier way to do it is just fill. Because most people use a fill like just as like a drum fill, or at least I did when I first started doing this. Wasn't very imaginative. So yeah, there's that. Some quick bonus ones. Told you I'd talk about the LFO envelope. Getting close to time here, or we're over time, but I'll show this really quickly. So on track 1, I have something being triggered on fill, and that is a sample. Here, I'll mute these real quick so it's a little bit more clear, but this is I didn't think to make this track faster or set the second trig here, but it'll trigger on fill, and you can cue the fill by pressing function yes, and then make sure you hold down yes, but you'll see it's cued. So you don't have to hold it down necessarily. So this is like glissando. So oftentimes you're like, okay, I got a filter envelope. Cool. I wish I had envelopes for other things. Well, you do, because it's a hidden envelope. So the way you do that is go to LFO, hit set a square wave, set the speed to 0 so it doesn't move, and you set the mode to half. So essentially what you're doing is allowing yourself to set the depth of that square wave, which just gives you a value. And then you use the fade control to fade in the value. And you can even use LFO2 to affect the fade out if you want, say by doing LFO fade in, fade out. So you could do a fade in, fade out if you wanted to. Or you could have this one affect the fade in really fast or really slow and do a exponential, or what do you call it, parametric math people? Algorithmic, yeah, there we go. You could do all sorts of crazy envelopes. And yeah, so this is just affecting sample tune, which is like, well, I don't have an envelope for pitch tune. There's no glissando or anything like that. So kind of cool. Also allows you to just trigger like a super long sample, and then just have these envelopes without re-triggering the sample, and without using the filter envelope. So to demonstrate this further, using other values, here it is on track 2, where it's affecting both sample volume but also sample rate reduction. And on 3, get that faster one. Changing filter resonance, which is cool. These little filter pings. Sometimes you want like a kick where you're like, okay, I want the resonance to be super high at the beginning, so I could crank the filter envelope and get a click at the beginning of it. Then I want to turn down the resonance. But you can do that with this trick. You can also set it to a exponential waveform and then set the condition to mode to 1 instead of half. And then you don't do the fade out. And then you keep the speed up. That's another method of doing it. But I like this method because it's just a little bit simpler. You have like a lot of control over certain things with just like changing this per step, right? Because whereas with the other, just doing it with a waveform, you're locked into one exponential waveform the entire time, pretty much. And like I said, you can use the second LFO to change the fade in speed, basically, so it can do exponential as well. So a little bit to wrap your head around, but it's something that you just kind of have to try out. But the key things to remember are square wave, half, speed to 0, doesn't matter what the BPM multiplier is, and then fade in and fade out. And then you got to remember to do LFO trick. That's key. So don't forget the LFO trick. Okay, I think that's it. So thanks, everybody. Yeah.
How long have you been making use of the Digitakt?
This was actually my first Elektron device. I got this in, I think, 2017. So it's been a long time. Yeah, I got this, and then I got an Octatrack, and then it was like, kind of like that meme where you're like looking back, at the Octatrack, Digitakt keeps walking away. But I still love the Digitakt. It's awesome. I just like sit on the couch with it all the time, just make things, and then just like sample them into analog rhythm or sample them into the Octatrack, and then reuse them, splice them. Because what's great is like if you make something on this, you can sample it into Ableton, or Overbridge, which is a whole other thing. Talk about that. Yeah, I can split up the tracks, which is really handy. If you sample them into the Octatrack, then you have proper time stretching, which the Warp machine on this does kind of the cool tracker style time stretching too. You can also do like a LFO pitch down to like do that like crazy like retrig pitch up like Amiga tracker style thing. but I just kind of slowly learned it. And honestly, the doing stuff on some of the other boxes has helped me a lot. Understand and try to apply them. And also the other thing that I think helped me accelerate learning faster was just picking one thing and just being like trying to master it or trying to explore every possibility of it. Like LFOs, like I go in LFOs, I'm like, oh, we got all these modes. I have no idea what these modes are. Like, what exactly does trig do? Like when does that happen? What exactly does hold do? What is one? What is half? Didn't know what half was for like 6 years. And then or something like neighbor trig conditions, or even resampling. It took me forever to just like get over the hurdle of just being like, oh, if it's resampled, then it's static and it's boring. I can't change it. It's like, no, it's sampling is like the modern art form, I think. I think it's like, it's pretty insane that for like $500, you get this machine that can manipulate audio in a way it's like never been possible before. If you had a 6-track tape machine in 1960s, it would have cost you like 3 cars worth of money. So yeah. Any other questions? I don't. I have a SoundCloud where like secret SoundCloud where I just kind of dump everything, but I use it as like more of a like storage thing for me, so I don't have to actually dig through all of my folders on my computer, which are just completely undisciplined, and I don't really want to look at them. So, what Brandon and I have been doing more is just thinking about live sets. Because I don't know about you, but me personally, I'm pretty obsessive. And once I became a parent, I didn't have time to get obsessed with sitting down and making a track and then being like, oh, I can just tweak it a little bit more. It'll sound a little bit better. And then I've like listened to it so much that I don't even know what sounds good. And then by the end, I hate it. So I think what I decided to do was like pivot more towards live stuff, and make the production stuff just kind of creating stems and things that I can load onto the Octatrack, which is for me, the Octatrack's really way more about the record buffers and manipulating and resampling and resequencing the live record buffers, which I play guitar into, or like Brandon runs his OPXY into it and resample that. And just do all that live. And I think the live stuff for me, at least personally, the goal would be like, not give myself a deadline, but eventually kind of try to do something here, and it's great that we have this forum to do it. And it's just a more pro-social thing for me to do, healthier, let's say. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. What's that?
I think it's deep with the last over left.
Yeah, it's deep. I mean, I didn't even really get into the digitone. I mean, there's things in that took me years to figure out, like understand like how the whole voice menu works. I'm like, what is this? Never touch it again. And the voice layering, all of that stuff, locking the voices, understanding how voice allocation works and how you can apply that creatively. And I think that's the best thing about these boxes is that these aren't just like technical limitations, they're intentional limitations that can be applied creatively if you take the time to understand them. So, a real quick example, sorry. I'll just demo this on the digitone real quick. So while you raise yours, I think this is the sample chains. Yeah, this is a good example of like voice layering of the digitone. Right. We have like a track like this. But if you break this down, all of these tracks, I have 1, 2, 3. Track 4 isn't doing anything. Maybe no, it's doing drums. but track one is a arpeggiator, which you should definitely use the arpeggiator being at the mute steps, because you can transpose that sequence to basically any sequencer inside your sequencer. And then you make it do a really slow sequence, and then you use the old probability trick where it basically interrupts the arpeggio and evolves it over time. And then the voice layering, this track one layers these other voices. So you got this one. There's just a drone here. This one's another arpeggio that's at a different speed and has a different arpeggio pattern, different offsets. So you can control the entire sequence just off of this one track, and it just evolves over time. So there's things like that on the Digitone where it's like you can see I'm like reusing a lot of the sequencer tricks from the Digitakt, where it's like slower patterns, conditions that interrupt longer sequences or longer samples. These infinite decays definitely like a big unlock, I think, for me. So yeah.
Find yourself getting lost in like what's being modulated. Because like how it doesn't animate something that's being modulated. So you find yourself at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that
all the time.
That is to say, until I figured out that like stupidly I was like not just doing the simple trick of like say I'm like parameter locking a bunch of stuff, and I've got like some sort of crazy insane this is kind of how I build out stuff, is I just kind of start. It's like chaotic. Why not? And you're like, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go crazy and start doing like this sort of stuff, and I'm gonna get wild. And pretty soon you're like, wait, what's making what sound? Like you're saying, but what you can do is you can just it's easy to track it down. Same goes for sample slots. Like that's one way to build a beat, is that if you just let it keep running. But another way to do it is with say like slice machines, right? It's like you have like a 64 sliced grid. If you like load a sample in here, it's like this one. A little arch, like something a little more less offensive. Yeah, sure, why not? And then you load up like a slice machine, and then you're like, okay, 64. That's pretty crazy. And then you have, I don't know. Another thing is just like start out with like a 4-step sequence, and then just like see what you can make. And you can get an LFO going too that will like change the slice start, whatever. But something like this, you're like, well, which one is which? And then it's just, and then that's just an easy way to like find stuff. You just put one finger here, one finger here. Just start looking for stuff. And then, so that's, you scan through it and kind of find stuff. And yeah, those like real short, like 3-step, 4-step sequences are a good way to just like make these like little micro things that, you get something crazy going here, you arm this, or Turn threshold more. Arm this. Or, sorry, I gotta do shorter sequence. My apologies. Set it to 4 steps. Never use more sample time than you need to. It is a hard drive after all. Now, and then you can hold shift and press this direction, and you get a loop. And then say, I don't ever name anything, just cool, assign it to a track, mute this track, go to this one, make this one 8 steps long, change the scale down to quarter scale, load in our sample, and then you can decide if you want to do, you can lock in infinite decay, and then set it to play mode to fourth loop, and then just copy these trigs, and then start like program it blocking that. Get really wild. Whatever great thing you gonna do. Like around with like filters, play around with different speeds. And then you resample that one, you know, for however long, and on and on. It's endless. Sorry, I could sit up here and talk about this thing forever, so I don't want to keep everyone here all night.
I don't want
Yeah.
as somebody who is obviously tech power user, what advice would you give somebody who's got one in the mail up running? Okay. Yeah.
I think it's to know what you like. I think it's know what you like, and then think about aspects of the Digitakt that you don't understand, and then like be like, what can I do? Create. How can I try to focus on that for just tonight or the week? Do like a depth month or depth week or whatever, you know, rest time you need, and just try to understand it and just do some like creative things with that, even if something seemingly lame like LFOs or just parameter locks and not sample locks, or infinite decays, or finger drumming and stuff, or I want to just sequence my Digitakt with Digitone MIDI LFOs, and every note, if you're in a slice machine, every note you can map notes in an arpeggio to different slices. So you get like an IDM shuffle thing just from arpeggios, MIDI arpeggios coming into this thing. So you have like hi-hats or something when you do really crazy stuff. Yeah, combining them, resampling them. Yeah, I think resampling, I think maybe like the biggest thing. Or go deep on one of the machines. Like be like, what's warp? What can I do with that creatively? Start. I mean, honestly, the first thing I start doing is I just go in here and just kind of do what I did with that other pattern. I would go in this and say import sound, and just, you know, import sound. Where is it? Sound manager. I get confused. Manage sounds. So import sounds is just like for getting one sound to this track. Manage sounds is I want to load a bunch of stuff into RAM. And what you can do here is make sure you press over and see where you are. You're either in the plus drive, which is the hard drive, or you're in pool, which is your RAM. And I can see what's in RAM here. Or I can go back to the plus drive and just go select a bunch of stuff. You can load, I think, 127 sounds. and just start locking them, and just on a pattern, try different things. Just restrict yourself to one track and see what you can make, and then resample that, and then put it on a slice machine, remix it, and just evolve one sample.
Wait.
Yeah. Sorry, that was not one thing that you should do, but like, yeah. One thing I'd say is just like sequence it, resample it, resequence, and just see where that gets you. I think it gets you into some really crazy, unexpected territory. Like for me, that broke me out of like making just drum machine sounds, like if we go back to here, and then like right fill. Yeah, that's because that's where I started. So yeah. Okay, thanks everybody. Yeah.